Classroom of the Elite. Listen, man, I wanted to read this light novel. I really did. Everyone and their pooch were telling me it's the next thing in the block. But then of anything that could actually happen, a new Haruhi novel came out. After literally forever. Which prompted me to force myself to read every single Haruhi novel again. Long story short, I am still working on that, and I still haven't read said new Haruhi novel. And yeah, I know it's been like months since that happened, but you know, I have the usual adult life excuse. Listen, it's not my fault. I remember doing a little bit of research about it once I was suggested said light novel. And really not being able to find much info on it. The writer is Shogo Kinosaga, but besides finding out that he wrote a few novels before this one, there was not much at all. Couldn't find out much about its reception in Japan either, except the fact that it came out in 2015 and apparently it's amazing. I frankly didn't even take a look at the anime ratings. It's always so freaking subjective, especially when we're dealing with adaptations. There are always going to be the people who will say it's when it's honestly okay. And I mean, I guess to their credit, it does happen a lot. But you got your jewels here and there. And me, personally, I love reading the original works before the adaptations every time, but, you know, I guess it would help if the day had 36 hours in it instead of 24, so I could read more shit. A good side to watching an anime first is that at least you're gonna get a sneak peek of what you're gonna get into it, if you decide to deep dive into the thing. So I binged everything in like a day. And if there's one thing that Classroom of the Elite reminded me of, is that even though I've been watching anime for like 27 years and I can't seem to stop being a prick about how many cult classics I'm rewatching for the 5th time now, or how much that one underground visual novel seems to be the apex of fiction, at the end of the day, I've always been a simple man with simple tastes. And honestly, I don't think that'll ever change no matter how many freaking times I rewatch Zero Experiments Lane. So, in about 10 hours in throughout both seasons of the show, I can say that a single episode made it all worth it to me. If you know, you know. Yes, I am that kind of guy. So yeah, we start with the premise. If it wasn't blatantly obvious by the title, it's yet another story with those genius, elite, prodigy, genius type high school students. You know the one. At this point in my anime experience, it didn't seem that interesting until people told me it's the next step in this type of direction. Because, oh my gosh, K2, you are so going to love this main character. And yeah, I get it. This was probably said 1,000 times, but listen, I still don't understand why scenarios like these have to necessarily be in high school. Listen, man, the author doesn't even want to write only high school students. And if anything, it's entertaining because I laugh my ass off every time I see one of these. Like, look at this guy. He is a bouncer, period. That is 100% the extent of his character, and nothing besides that is explained. What you see is what you get. I would at least try to see some backstory in it, like this guy is some adult who got put into this school through money to be this asshole's bodyguard. Because screw the rules, I have money. And look at this guy. He is a class representative because of course he is. My man is 16. Please, please, if anyone watching this video right now had a freaking bald guy who looked like he was 30 in his freshman year of high school, please comment down below. Why do you do this to yourself? I mean, I guess since at this point anything goes in anime, the high school setting doesn't really limit your character creation, but man, does it take me out of it. I will admit though, for as much of a side character one can be, this kind of shit always makes them more memorable. I guess that's my rant with the whole obligatory high school system going on in anime, but you know what? It's a losing battle. Anywho, it's your starter pack. High school with a rigorous entry exam. Only the best of the best get in. If you graduate, you're set for life, yada yada yada, run of the mill. Starts with our boy, Ayono Koji Kiyotaka, getting into this high school, pulling the Shiba Tatsuyaba, getting exactly 50 points in the entry exam. That probably tells you a lot. It's the first day of school, how nostalgic for us, and the teacher just comes in and says, everyone, you guys, for getting into this school, you're super elite boys, all of you get like 10 grand. And listen, I don't think that even I was that fucking dumb in high school. But everyone just assumes they're getting paid all this huge ridiculous amount every fucking month with no strings attached and go out on a spending spree even though there are obvious hints on this island, school, city, I don't know what the fuck this is, that you should watch out, but no one cares. Even though the teacher explicitly said it was, you know, a special thing because they got admitted into it. The month goes on, teacher seems like she doesn't give a hoot, so people do whatever the fuck. But not our boy, no, he actually has brain cells. And then the plot twist that you all saw coming from 10 miles away happens. Teacher comes in and says, hi, you fucking idiots. I've been counting how many times you all did shit that were against the hidden rules of the academy. That sounds so anime. Proving that even the teacher herself is a freaking backstabber. Also, Class D is supposed to be the class with the defects, the bottom of the barrel people. People who suck. You see, the school uses a points system, and points are money. Just like real life, you can buy anything with points, including food to not die. Each class have class points. A, B, C, D. And the class point total times 100 determines how much you're paid every month. You know what? It doesn't seem like that much of a bad idea. Incentivizing students with cold hard cash. I wonder how much work I would have actually put in school if I was paid to study. I mean, even if you freaking cash out and have no money, you still can eat stuff. They give you some free stuff to it. Listen, what I'm saying is just, it doesn't seem like that bad of an idea, okay? Listen, once people find out this is how the school works and that they can get other classes points to add to their own to make their lives better, you know the sabotage and the dirty shit are imminent. That's what got me. So at the end of the day, all the author did was put into a high school our depressing human society system, claiming meritocracy. And from very early on now, you can see that everyone is going to resort to blackmail, deception, framing, you know, all that good stuff. At least those rules seem to be in place, even though we don't know what the fuck they are, so we'll never know if they're changing it. I think if you look at it from this angle, it sounds really simple, right? A premise where you put society into a high school. Of course, this is just my opinion. I have no idea what the guy was thinking when he was writing it. But it did get me, and now I wanted to see all the drama that would ensue from the incessant backstabbing about to happen. And if it got you too, then go watch it, because we're starting the spoiler review. You know, being recommended this on the background that I read Oregairu kind of put my expectations in the wrong place. So I came in expecting this, and I'm just gonna call it how it is. It's a power fantasy. Mahoka 2.0. No, really. Early on, you're gonna get, you know, these hints that this guy just isn't normal. And then you find out he's some kind of a science experiment. Seem familiar? Some super genius fabricated kid that probably went through some intense, inhumane shit back in the day. And sure, explains a lot why he always remains distant, why he never wants to, you know, share his past with anyone. And I don't mean to say that power fantasies are bad. I mean, I enjoyed Mahoka. It's almost kind of therapeutical in a way. And if this was just gonna be more of that, yeah, I was okay with it. That said, the main character's aspirations and development are usually what makes or breaks an anime to me. The problem is this guy never actually had development. It was more of an exposition of what he truly was than what he's becoming. And with that, the anime does really make a point that he just wants to be free and do whatever the fuck he wants to. But if he's not gonna do anything, then what's going to be the driving point in the anime? So level with me here, right? There should be something to incentivize him to work towards the goal of the anime. So let's see the first time this is introduced. So before we even got to know anything about this guy, he enrolls into the school and for some reason tries to get close to this girl, our main heroine, Horikita Suzune. Why? We don't know. Maybe he thinks she's cute. She opens up, tells him that her absolute goal is to make Class D turn into Class A by gaining the points from the other classes. So there you go, that's the end game. That's her Showdown goal. And then he, out of his own free will, might I remind you, tells her that he's gonna become her ally and help her achieve this ultimate goal. Again, why? But then we get into the first trial, right? The Jacques boy has very bad grades. What a surprise. So we gotta get him to pass the next exam, because if anyone gets a failing grade, they get expelled. And understandably, if you get someone expelled from your class, there might be, you know, some hidden fucking rule that says that, you know, you can't become Class A if you get someone expelled. So that takes an amazing amount of effort to get the guy to understand what's going on, to get the guy to cooperate, and to get the guy to study and actually work hard towards the goal, even though he thinks he's just good for basketball. And even going through all of that, unfortunately, the dude still doesn't make it. And now, I admit it does get really interesting because this is the first instance of these students just buying something kind of questionable. They find out, you know, that they can just buy a point the guy needs to pass from the teacher with money. Yeah. That's to teach you how the world works, kids! So alright, for a guy whose philosophy is to not have to do shit, to not have to exert any amount of extra effort in anything, this seems pretty weird, right? I actually think the author noticed that. So right before the next trial, the extremely attractive teacher lady tries to blackmail our boy into doing what she wants. Something about his dad wanting him out of the school and threatening him to expel him if he doesn't do his absolute best to get Class D to become Class A. So he does. But now he goes absolute manipulator mode. He uses every person at his disposal when masterminds flying colors for the class for the next 2 trials that happen. And don't get me wrong, that was fun to watch. But at the end we get our first twist, or our first exposition in what this guy is. Horikita tells him in typical tsundere fashion that, you know what, at least I'll consider you an ally for now. And then our boy just edgily thinks to himself, good to know. Truth is, I never considered you one. Oh! Excuse me, what? Listen, you said that your whole thing is that you don't want to do anything. You just want to be free. You also said it yourself. Now that I'm blackmailed, I guess I'll have to sacrifice my freedom to work towards this goal so I can protect it in the future. And listen guys, we have to get into his sociopath mind here. If Suzune was always just your fucking pawn, then sure, it makes sense that you're using her now to get class D to class A. But why the fuck did you go and help her out in the beginning? Why did you go out of your way to befriend the antisocial 90% soon 10% dere girl?
Holy shit, that's almost as bad as Kirino.
And then made it a point to help her out to get the dude that the whole class saw as a lost cause, using all your free time that month to help this guy out. And not only that, but a large sum of your money, dude, to get everything to go smoothly. Listen, what I'm saying is that at that point, I have no idea what could possibly have taken more effort than that. Why would you care? Why did you need Suzune as a pawn from the get-go? Especially since you were only blackmailed into this way after that happened. She had no friends, no influence. In fact, she was antagonistic of anyone who would approach her. Listen, if you're gonna paint yourself as this asshole who only sees people as tools, it seems that any other person you could have targeted in that class would be a better option. You know what? I'm starting to think that he's the real tsundere here. Ayano Koji, you baka! I wanted to talk about this because all of this is in complete contrast with what I'm going to call the Karuizawa factor. Not just the character development that our girl Karuizawa Kei had during the anime, but the kind of relationship that she builds with her boy makes total sense to me. It had been a while since a character that I gave zero shits about during the beginning of an anime did a complete 180 like this. Completely took the spotlight to me and was one of the big factors in making me want to watch the next episode of this. She was given a really simple backstory and then presented as something of a parasite in society. And however morally questionable the actions of Kiyotaka are, it was really entertaining to see him put his plan into action into making her the perfect pawn. And she really is that essential, like an absolute unit. To me, even though Karuizawa is this normal JK girl with honestly a shallow attitude at sometimes, it's almost a breath of fresh air to see a character like this become someone prominent in the story. In anime high schools where you have these outlandish students with seemingly unreachable talent levels. I'll never get over the student council body president who is perfect at everything he does and better than you in anything you try. And she plays her part perfectly. Usually all she has to do is just be herself, and everything will go just according to plan. I think she was a solid character. She's not a saint or anything. Sometimes she'll dish out at people or even bully others for whatever the reason. Maybe she has some frustrations from her past she wanted to dish out in other people. Maybe it's a way for her to cope with that. I don't know. It does come to bite her back in the ass later really bad. Let's give a look at a little example of that. Man, I love this part. Orchestrated by Kiyotaka as per usual. Karuizawa is kind of temperamental at times, so I don't think anyone would bat an eyebrow if she just, I don't know, got up and spilled some drink on your chest because, you just think you're too perfect, don't you? This girl is a fucking psycho bitch, by the way. Fuck you, Kushida. And then when everybody is like, what the fuck? Well, calm down, girl. She puts on a face, stops, thinks a little bit, and says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And then makes the completely reasonable point that she absolutely has to wash her uniform for her and then return it later. Which masterfully deals with two really game-defining points here. One, washing the uniform is going to get rid of the fingerprints that she was using to frame Kiyotaka. And two, you would plant in her jacket the cheat sheet for the test, which would be used as evidence to frame her, not only ruining her plans but getting back at her for trying to one-up the whole class. And no one is the wiser because Karuizawa was just Karuizawing. But now we're gonna get into the part that I absolutely love the most. You see, despite everything, Karuizawa doesn't do all this kind of shit for Kiyotaka just for free. You see, she calls herself a parasite, but the way I look at it, it's kind of symbiotic. She does this because she was promised protection, the one thing she really wants. And it's worth it to her, even though she's fully aware that she is only being used as a tool by this guy. Then there's this guy. Yeah, we're gonna talk about Ryuuen. He's supposed to be the representative for Class C. And honestly, to me, he was a pretty uncreative villain character. And sure, he's kind of smart, but to me, he just came out as some freaking thug who thinks he can play a fucking boss mafia man in high school. He has that philosophy where violence can solve anything. And you know, honestly, that is very, very fucking good when you got something like that in a shonen like Hunter x Hunter, where Meruem has all the power in the world to fucking say that. But in a setting like this, it's always freaking shallow. You always know he's gonna get his shit kicked out of one day. And that's where we start. We had 23 episodes of this guy trying to fuck over Class D, but we also had 23 episodes of constant hints that Kiyotaka, our boy, also has extremely adept athletic capabilities. Because of course he does. And 23 episodes of constant anxiety where Keitsu was like, alright, when is Kiyotaka gonna beat the shit out of this guy? Or is this author gonna make me not watch this and just be, I don't know, man, just pull up some bullshit of like, I don't need to hit you or whatever to make a point at. But the day comes. You see, this Ryuuen guy finds out that our girl Karuizawa has connections to the mastermind of Class D. So he does the usual mafia shit, orchestrates a place where there are no cameras, completely unsupervised, blackmails our girl into going over there. She goes anyways because she thinks she's gonna be protected at this point. Endures what seemed to be hours and hours of psychological and physical torture that were designed to trigger her memories of her traumas back into middle school. Our girl goes through all of that without squealing. No, you don't understand. She goes fucking solid snake. Even though she knew that Ayano Koji was the one who set her up in the first place to be bullied, only to be able to use her later. Even though the torture was starting to break her, she kept true to her promise, didn't cave in, and wanted to beat this trauma for herself. For her sake, she would hold fast, even if our boy didn't show up and it seemed that she was doomed to suffer this lunatic's whims. That made her the real MVP of the anime to me. I frankly thought she was gonna cave in into like 5 minutes. Now, this is what I mean by it being a simple guy. How cliche can we get? You have this bad guy who up to now seems like a one-dimensional character who's just an asshole. You have your princess damsel in distress right here, which thank goodness this guy at least gave her some kind of development during this part to show that she was doing this for herself and not just waiting on some white knight prince to show up. But the hero does show up late as expected. I mean, at this point we just follow the formula, right? Our hero goes to the girl, proceeds to crack his knuckles and pull a Watchman on them. Gentlemen, I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. As corny as this seems, I still don't know if this was actually pure genius on the writer's part or it was just like, I don't know, man, I'm just gonna go for the tried and true. Because it was so fucking good. Straight fire. I swear. Man, the dopamine rush was huge. Again, I am a man with simple tastes. This proves it all. Also, this is probably where 90% of the animation budget went to. We then watch our boy proceed to handle every single character's ass on a silver platter in this room. And then he violently beats Ryuuen so much. No, seriously, that felt like 10 straight minutes of intense, heavy ass beating. There was a grin in my face through the whole process, man. It's like I got a Tarantino ending for my anime. You see, and it didn't feel like it was for free either. Like, sure, he orchestrated it all just to make Karuizawa even more dependent on him, but it makes total sense because if we're looking through his eyes, she is the perfect pawn. If you have Karuizawa on your side, you have almost all of the girls in the class also on your side, and that would be useful for him no matter what his endgame is. Talking about endgame, let's see what the cliffhangers in this story are for now, because, well, this is what's gonna sell the novel to me and probably to all of you watching who are interested in that way. Close to the end, Kiyotaka actually confronts his old man. He's here trying to give him an ultimatum for him to leave the school. The director of the school himself has to step in and then try to convince the guy to let Kiyotaka stay. It works out, but that immediately makes him understand that Cleavage Sensei didn't have shit on him in the first place. So he tells her to fuck off and immediately stops trying to exert effort into making Class D become Class A. Now, we all know he can't stop, or else where is even the plot going to go? Or do you guys really think that Yosuke and Horikita can make Class D become Class A all on their their own. So there's obviously gonna be some kind of bullshit to make him try again. I just hope it's something good, because if not, why put in his exposition with his dad and make him quit in the first place? Just keep the blackmail. Now, there are two things I want to talk about in the story as we go forward. Kiyotaka does say he has a goal now, and that goal is to expel Kushida. And even though that goes against what he said in the beginning, where if you expel someone, the class might never make it to A, it does make sense now since he doesn't give a crap about making it to Class A anymore, and Kushida is an actual threat to him. Since he even gives Ryuuen a get out of jail free card, since now he can use the guy at least. And listen, I know, I was being hard on Ryuuen, but to me, it's not some last episode act like, you know, I took one for my team thing. That's gonna make me think you're not just some egotistical prick. I just wish there was backstory and something for me to relate with the guy, cause we got close to nothing. This is also the point where you guys are probably going to comment ad nauseum down there, go read the fucking light novel. And honestly, trying to look at it from an unbiased perspective, Iono Koji could probably be even a worse person than him in the first place. I am curious to see him in an all-out war with Kushida. I am curious to see if this dialogue he had with Karuizawa about him only being able to see people as tools is some kind of foreshadowing that in the future he might change out of his sociopathic ways. Even though I think arguably it might be more interesting if he just sticks to his guns and remains this fucking asshole until the end. But more than anything, I'm curious to see how he's gonna handle playing with the big boys now. Man, this interaction.
So it should fall to me to bury you.
So you think you can bury me?
I don't know, maybe I can.
Maybe you can, but maybe not.
I don't know, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I guess we wait. So moral of the story, everyone is an asshole, and the main character is probably the worst of them all. Wait, if I liked this anime, then what does this say about me? Also, you might think that Karuizawa is my best girl, but she's not. Haruka has a beauty mark. Really, no contest to be had there. So there you go. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the video up to this point. I hope you guys really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys really enjoyed Classroom of the Elite. Here's to the 3rd season. If this was entertaining to you, if you liked it, please give a like and subscribe. It really helps me out with growing the channel. I really want to put out these more often than not, and be able to do some Akiba Weeklies too. Thank you so much for supporting me and for the help. See you guys in the next one. K2 out.